My name is David Morgan. For 42 years I have worn the badge. And if you think that fear goes away with time, you are mistaken. It simply becomes quieter, deeper, colder. It was October. A cold evening, wet asphalt, a thin fog creeping through the streets as if the city was hiding something. At 9:12 p.m. the dispatcher called my unit number. Unit 47, incoming 911 call. The line is open, but the caller is silent. An ordinary situation? No. I picked up the microphone. 47 listening. Through the speaker there was only breathing. Quiet. Uneven. Almost childlike. Then, a whisper. So quiet that the dispatcher turned the volume up to maximum. He is here. The connection was cut. Believe me, in 40 years of service I've heard everything: screams, threats, hysteria, the laughter of psychopaths. But silence. Silence is always worse. The address didn't determine immediately. The signal bounced between towers. Finally, the system produced an approximate location: an old residential neighborhood, Brookwood Lane. I turned on the lights, but not the siren. My intuition told me, noise could ruin everything. The rain intensified. Streetlights reflected in the puddles like blurred stars. I didn't know then that this call would become one of those that returned to me at night. Brookwood Lane wasn't a criminal area. Old houses, tidy lawns, plastic pumpkins on porches. Halloween was near. But one house stood out. No lights. No car. No movement. Only a curtain in the second-floor window shifted slightly. I stepped out of the car. Rain hit the collar of my jacket. The radio crackled. 47, repeat incoming from the same number. Line is open. I froze. Through the speaker, the same breathing. And then, a quiet knock. 3 times. Knock. 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 Not into the phone. Somewhere nearby. I lifted my eyes to the house. The knocking repeated. From inside. I walked to the door and knocked. No answer. Then I remembered the phrase. He is here. I went around the house. The back door was slightly open. In moments like this, the heart doesn't beat faster. It simply becomes heavy. I entered. The smell of dampness and old carpet. The television was on without sound. News flickered across the screen. Police! Is anyone here? Silence. Then, the faint creak of the stairs. I went up to the second floor. In a room, almost completely dark, sat a boy. About 15. Pale. A phone in his hands. He wasn't looking at me. He was staring into the corner of the room. It's okay, I said calmly. You called? He barely nodded. Where is he? The boy didn't answer. He only whispered. He hears. I felt the air grow dense. Who? The boy swallowed. My mom's boyfriend. And right there the story stopped being just a strange call. Those 2 words hung in the room heavier than any weapon. I didn't make sudden movements. 40 years of service taught me one thing: sometimes the most dangerous situation looks the quietest. His name? I asked. The boy was silent. His eyes didn't blink. They were fixed on the corner of the room where a closet stood. Not the door. Not the window. The closet. I slowly shifted my gaze there too. The door was closed. But something in the way he looked. It wasn't just fear. It was certainty. Is he in there? I asked quietly. The boy barely shook his head. He's in the house. Downstairs, a door slammed. The sound wasn't loud. Almost domestic. But something clicked inside me. I brought the radio to my lips. 47. Possible suspect present inside. Requesting backup without siren. The response came quickly. Copy. Nearest unit 4 minutes out. 4 minutes is an eternity. What's your name? I asked. Ethan. Ethan, listen to me. You did well calling. You did everything right. He squeezed the phone tightly. He said if I call, He'll know? I nodded. He won't know. From downstairs came the sound of footsteps. Slow. Heavy. The man wasn't hiding. He wasn't sneaking. He was walking as if he owned the situation. I positioned Ethan behind me and stood between him and the doorway. The footsteps stopped at the stairs. Silence. Then a voice. Calm. Almost amused. Officer, you can come down. We're just talking. Cold ran down my spine. He knew I was there. Sir, come out with your hands raised, I said loudly. You scared the boy, the voice replied. He's very impressionable. Ethan began to tremble. He hears everything, he whispered. I understood. The television downstairs was on. But the sound was muted. Why? Because then every word from upstairs could be heard. He was listening. I slowly moved toward the stairs, leaving Ethan in the room. Close the door and don't open it until I say, I told him quietly. As I went down, I felt the house tightening. In the living room stood a man about 40. Athletic. Neat. Calm. Too calm. Good evening, officer, he said. Problems? Your name? Mark Landon. His hands were visible. But his eyes were evaluating. We received a call from this address. He smirked. Kids. They love drama. I had seen men like him before. The ones who don't shout. The ones who don't hit in front of witnesses. The ones who work quietly. Where is the boy's mother? I asked. At work. Contact? I'm not obligated to give you her number. He was confident. Too confident. At that moment, headlights flashed from outside. Backup arrived. But everything got worse. Because Mark slightly turned his head and whispered. You made a mistake, Ethan. He said it quietly. Almost inaudibly. But I heard it. And I understood, this was only the beginning. When the second unit entered the house, Mark was already standing against the wall like a model citizen. No aggression. No threats. No signs of violence. He played the role perfectly. We searched the house. Nothing. No weapons. No illegal substances. No signs of struggle. Ethan sat in the room as if frozen. He didn't do anything, he said quietly in front of his mother, who arrived 20 minutes later. She was tired. Confused. Mark takes care of us, she said. He helps with homework. I looked at the boy. His eyes were screaming. But out loud, silence. The law doesn't work on intuition. It needs evidence. We left. But I couldn't let it go. The next day I returned, without a call. Just to check. Mark opened the door. Smiling. Still worried? I saw a bruise on Ethan's wrist. Almost invisible. An accident, Mark said. The boy was silent. I understood. He wasn't afraid of the blows. He was afraid that no one would believe him. A week later, another call. 911 again. Silence again. But this time, another sound. Metallic. As if something had fallen. I arrived faster than regulations allowed. The door was closed. I knocked. No one. The back entrance again. Open. The house was too quiet. I went upstairs. Ethan's room was empty. The bathroom, locked. Ethan! It's me! Silence. I broke the door. The bathtub was filled with water. Ethan was sitting on the floor, shaking, but alive. Fresh cuts on his wrists. Not deep. An attempt. Not to die. But to be heard. And then I understood. His first call wasn't a request to save him from Mark. He was checking. Would someone come? Would someone knock again? Mark stood downstairs. Calm. He's unstable, officer. I looked at him. And for the first time in many years allowed myself not only intuition but anger. We started an investigation. Psychologist. Social services. Message checks. Cameras. And the truth came out. Not beatings. Not threats. Manipulation. isolation, psychological pressure. Mark was breaking him slowly, quietly, so that no one would notice. But Ethan noticed. And he found a way to say it without words. Through breathing in the receiver. Through 3 knocks. Through silence. Mark received a sentence. Not a long one, but enough to leave their lives. Years later, Ethan wrote me a letter. It contained only one sentence. Thank you for knocking one more time. 42 years of service. You think rescues are chases, gunshots, heroism. Sometimes it's simply attentiveness. Sometimes it's simply intuition. Sometimes it's simply one more knock on the door. And if you ever hear silence on the other end of the line, don't rush to dismiss it. Because sometimes silence is a scream.